So maybe finally a race in the Big Ten for the first time in a few years, with Ohio State showing vulnerability that may not necessarily be made up by a high-scoring offense that takes advantage of the red zone opportunities that it has in the past. And Iowa, Penn State waiting against Auburn. I think the league is intriguing, and the combination of important non-conference games and conference games is unique to this league thus far this season. And you would think that with the amount that we've seen, that most of them would be over, but we still have Michigan State traveling to Miami. We've got Purdue at Notre Dame, of course, the Auburn Penn State game in Happy Valley.
Yeah, Wisconsin and Notre Dame.
Notre Dame a little bit later. Also, Indiana, Cincinnati.
Wisconsin's first 4 games are 3 of them are Penn State, Notre Dame, and Michigan. 3 of like the 6 winningest programs of all time. I don't know if anybody's done that like ever, to start a season, or at least not in the modern era, post, freshman eligibility and 11 game seasons in 1971. I'll guarantee no one's done it since then, but so, Wisconsin's early schedule is no joke.
So while you look at Ohio State's loss as possibly being the thing that's going to undermine the Big Ten, if there's a tiebreaker situation with Oregon and Ohio State as conference champions, if you look over the breadth of the results, 5-2 against the Power Five, pretty substantial that they've held serve against everybody else in the Big Ten. Again, a number of teams that still have big non-conference games. I really like this Michigan State game going to Miami. I'm intrigued by that. How good do you think the conference is? Do you have a good feel for it yet?
I don't. I think it's a little deeper than I anticipated it was going to be. I think that if games are won in the trenches, and you can have all those dirt bikes and out there running around and going beep beep and having those Mark Packer frisbee catching dogs you want, if you cannot hold up at the point of attack, how much better athletically you have to be. It's not just the great athletes Ohio State had. It's that it knew on 3rd and 4 it could run the ball with J.K. Dobbins, and that could be a running down. Or before that, Carlos Hyde, or let's just pick a name. That's been the case for so long, and it was going to stand up to the point of attack on the other side of the football as well. If that's not going to be the case for Ohio State this year, and it is possible now to impose your will on them, where you're not always having to play their tempo all the time, Mark. And you get out of your game plan early, because if you fall behind 10-0, you're like, crap, man, we'll be lucky to stop these guys one time. If you can now force them in a limited possession game, and as much as possible with this quality of athletes they have at the skill positions, to play as much in a mosh pit as you can get. And it's certainly not what like Wisconsin and Penn State would play in, but it's certainly more than what you could the last few years get Ohio State to play in. If you can do that, well, now suddenly that next level of recruiting team, like a Penn State, they don't have the athletes to put up 35-42 on Ohio State unless they're -3, in turnovers. But if we're going to limit possessions of the game, and now it takes 28 or 31, they can do that, Mark. They can do that. I think there's a couple other teams in our league that can maybe do that. So I think that brings Ohio State closer to that next tier of teams. I think, I thought, looking at the league a lot, I told you in the preseason, I didn't see like a 2-10 type of team in the league this year. Like a team that this is everybody's, get well game for sure. Rutgers offensively is still awful. They actually they were like 0.5 yard per play differential against Temple and put up 60 points. I don't think I'll ever see a stat like that again. They were outgained and outgunned against Syracuse, won by double digits. But they at least have an identity. They play very salty defense. Maryland has receivers, kind of like a great 3-point shooting team that plays no defense. Then on any given night in the Big Ten, they hit 15 threes on you, and you walk out of there with an L, So I really think that it is possible, if not likely, Ohio State will lose another game the rest of the way.